I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, what's up my homies, what's poppin'? UFC 270 man, this one's a nasty one. Yeah, I'm looking to bounce back a little bit on this one. You know, the first week, the first card wasn't the best for betting. As always my homies, go ahead, hams that smash the like button. Super appreciate all the support. Alright man, UFC 270, let's jump into it, let's break them down. Alright, we got a matchup between Della Maddalena, that is a sick name, taking on Pete Rodriguez. Originally, Maddalena was supposed to fight Wally Alves, which, you know, that's a sick matchup. But now he's got Pete Rodriguez. This guy's 4-0 as a professional. And if you go look at his fights, he's just knocking guys out. You know, a minute 20, 10 seconds, 40 seconds, 2 minutes 20. Pete Rodriguez is looking to knock you out in round 1. Now, Della Maddalena, we see this guy on the Contender Series. Against Lusa, the boxing combinations look nasty. I think one of the best ways that Maddalena could win this fight would simply be to wrestle. Because if you go back and watch that fight against Lusa, the scrambling ability that Maddalena showed, pretty impressive. So if he just gets in there and says, you know, Pete Rodriguez, you're knocking these guys out, I can crack too, but you know what, I'm just going to take you down. If Maddalena does that, it could just be an easy win. I'm not saying that Maddalena can't crack with Pete Rodriguez, because if you look at Maddalena, man, the guy's got a chin. You know, he can stand and trade with Pete Rodriguez. He might knock him out, to be honest. Whether it's wrestling or striking, I would prefer it to be wrestling, but either way, I think Maddalena probably wins this fight. So yeah, that's going to be the first prediction. I'll take Maddalena. My numbers on this one, I'd price Maddalena at least around the -300. And the bookies have, yeah, they've got Maddalena -3. So yeah, even the bookies are like, you know, if you're going to play this one, we're going to make you pay for it. The way that Pete Rodriguez would win the fight would be to brawl. But even if you brawl against Maddalena, he's a good boxer. So yeah, the bookies arguably getting this one right. Alright, we've got a matchup between Ilia Topuria taking on Jourdain. Man, this is a good matchup. I'm sure most of us are going to be picking Ilia Topuria to win this fight. You know, Ilia Topuria, man, this guy is super well rounded. The grappling against Yusuf Salal. You know what he done to Damon Jackson? Dusted him. Pure dusteration. Maybe that's a new one for the channel. Dusteration. Like total obliteration, but the dusting version. You know, then he fought Ryan Hall, who's a specialist at, you know, dislocating ankles. There was no ankle dislocation here, you know. Topuria dusted him. Now looking at the flip side, Jourdain. This guy's a pretty decent striker. You know, the striking output's pretty good. He put a nice dusting on Andre Ewell. You know, that fight was pretty easy money, to be honest. So yeah, we've got a good matchup between two pretty decent fighters in the UFC. I've got to side with Ilia Topuria purely because if the fight is somewhat close in a striking standpoint, Ilia might take the fight to the mat. And if he does take the fight to the mat, you know, that Georgian wrestling, black belt in jiu-jitsu, super strong top control. And that's ultimately why I think Ilia Topuria is going to win the fight. You know, if it's close in a striking battle, take the fight to the mat. Now it's looking like obliteration. So yeah, that's going to be my prediction. I'll take Ilia Topuria. Yeah, my numbers, I'd put Topuria around -250. And the bookies have Ilia Topuria -500. Hey, that's crazy, man. I mean, even though I'm picking against Jourdain, I think that's a bit disrespectful. Yeah, I'm going to stay away. It's almost tempting to bet Jourdain. You know, +400, my God. Yeah, the prediction, I'm going to take Ilia Topuria, but the bookies, you know, they've got it covered. Alright, we've got a matchup between Vanessa Demopoulos and Silvana Gomez. Now, I've already spoke about this fight, so I'm not going to do it again. But to cut a short story even shorter, my prediction's going to be Lil Monster, Vanessa Demopoulos. Am I going to bet that? Absolutely not. But if she can take down Silvana, maybe she can win the fight. I've picked against Vanessa every time she's been inside the octagon. So yeah, maybe I'll give her a shot on this one. My prediction last week was Vanessa Demopoulos, and I'm still gonna stay with that prediction. You know, you do not want to be the loser of this fight. If the fight stays standing, you know, maybe Silvana can pop her with a jab. But yeah, guys, don't bet this. Don't bet this fight. And the odds are probably still going to be the same. Oh no, they're not. We've got Vanessa minus 150 now. Yeah, last week she was minus 110. So I'm not sure what happened there. You know, maybe over 7 days, Vanessa Demopoulos has got better. Don't bet this fight. Alright guys, we've got a matchup between Raoni Barcelos taking on Victor Henry. Guys, my prediction for this fight, Raoni Barcelos. He's a better Muay Thai striker, he's quicker, he's more powerful, he's got a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, he's a really good grappler, he reads the fight well. You know, his technique is spot on. To be honest, man, if Raoni Barcelos got to the UFC earlier, this guy is challenging for titles. You know, that's how highly I regard Raoni Barcelos. If I'm going to speak about any weaknesses that Raoni has, maybe you're speaking about a little bit inactive against Team of Valiv, and maybe the cardio wasn't the greatest. But you look at his fights against Khalid Taha, Said Nurmagomedov, Chris Gutierrez. You know, Raoni Barcelos looks like a killer in all of these fights. So yeah, man, I'm high on Raoni Barcelos. I'm not going to give Victor Henry much of a chance in this matchup. If I had to think about how Victor Henry won the fight, maybe it's a Hail Mary knockout. If it wasn't going to be a crazy Hail Mary knockout, you know, wrestle, try to fatigue Raoni Barcelos. But I think most times Raoni Barcelos is going to win with the striking. You know, his Muay Thai is nasty. And if there's grappling, I think Raoni Barcelos wins that type of fight too. So yeah, my prediction, Raoni Barcelos. And I'd have to price him to match my confidence. I'd price him around minus 400. And the bookies have him from minus 350 up to minus 420. Yeah, so the bookies are like, yo, take a shot on Victor Henry plus 300. I'm most likely going to put Raoni Barcelos in a parlay. Alright guys, we've got a matchup between Jasmine Jasudavicius taking on Kay Hansen. Yeah, not a bad matchup. So Kay Hansen, you know, this girl's only like 21, 22 years old. When we're looking at her skill set, you know it's that 10th planet Jiu-Jitsu. Her grappling, the wrestling and Jiu-Jitsu is going to be what Kay Hansen has to offer in this fight. Now on the flip side, Jasmine Jasudavicius, this girl comes from the Contender Series. Looking at Jasmine's skill set, you know it's going to be a striking skill set. Knees, elbows, punches, you know, she looks like a Muay Thai fighter. So based on the stylistic matchup we've got, more than likely if Kay Hansen can take Jasmine to the mat, she's going to be the winner. On the flip side, if Jasmine can avoid the takedown, you know, continue to strike with Kay Hansen, then she might be the winner. Also to mention the difference in height, you know, Jasmine 5'7", Kay Hansen 5'2". Jasmine also has a 5-inch reach advantage, you know, that's going to show in a striking battle. So yeah, pretty good matchup. I'm going to side with the striker, Jasmine Jasudavicius. Not super confident she's going to win the fight, but yeah, it's a good one. I would keep the betting line pretty close. I'd put Jasmine around like a minus 130. And the bookies have got Jasmine plus 200. I mean, if you're going to put Kay Hansen a favourite because she's got that takedown threat, okay. But to put her minus 250, you know, I think that's wrong. Even if she takes Jasmine to the mat, you know, wins the fight, 250. You know, minus 250 is too much. So yeah, I'm liking the value on Jasmine Jasudavicius. Alright, so Tony Gravely taking on Saimon Oliveira. Saimon Oliveira comes from the Contender Series. His fight on the Contender, man, was a pretty good one against a pretty decent guy in Jose Alday. Not Jose Aldo, Jose Alday. But yeah, that was a pretty decent fight. Now, Saimon Oliveira, if you look at his record, you're going to notice a lot of submissions. So if the fight goes to the mat, you know, this guy's looking to utilize that jiu-jitsu. If you look at Oliveira from a striking standpoint, really not that bad. Like, his Muay Thai is pretty good, you know, the kicks are coming fast. The skill set of Tony Gravely, in my opinion, this guy's a wrestler. I know he completely obliterated Anthony Burchak, you know, complete obliteration, but when I'm looking at the skill set of Tony, it's primarily wrestling. He did drop Nate Maness, but somehow, you know, lost that fight. It's really a 50-50 matchup. Even if this fight goes to the mat and Tony Gravely's utilising his wrestling, even if it goes to the mat, you know, Oliveira's got that jiu-jitsu. So would I be surprised if he chokes out Tony Gravely? Absolutely not. And man, Tony Gravely against De Freitas, some of those takedown attempts were so telegraphed. You know, got a bit tired. And if you're getting tired shooting desperately, you know, Oliveira might choke you out. You know what? Before I started speaking about this fight, I was actually leaning towards Tony Gravely. But I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to take Saimon Oliveira. If he uses his Muay Thai striking, you know the fight might be pretty close. If Tony Gravely makes a mistake on the mat, Simon Oliveira might choke him out. So yeah, that's why I'm going to side with Oliveira. And the actual numbers for this fight, you've got Tony Gravely minus 250. Oh my goodness. Man, I think that's overpriced. If Tony Gravely wins the fight, you know, out wrestles Oliveira, then fair play, but I think it's overpriced. Alright, we got a matchup between Matt Frevola taking on Genaro Valdez. Man, decent matchup. Now, if you don't remember who Valdez is, this guy's from the Contender Series. For anyone that missed that fight, he was fighting a guy named Patrick White, and Patrick White basically forgot his mouthpiece. Not only did he forget his mouthpiece, he also forgot his cup. So as you could imagine, you know, he's walking up to the octagon without his equipment, and Genaro Valdez had to wait inside the octagon, man. It was a crazy situation, but also an entertaining situation where every single viewer was asking themselves, what is going on here? Patrick White, man, the biggest moment of your life, and bro, unbelievable. But anyway, Genaro Valdez, this guy actually nearly lost that fight. He nearly lost that fight to Patrick White. The reason why he nearly lost that fight, he gassed out real bad. Now, Matt Frevola, you know, this guy kind of has a dusty chin. It's a bit dusty. You know, Polo Reyes sent him to Shadow City. Terrence McKinney sent him to Shadow City. You know, if you connect clean on Matt Frevola, man, you can win the fight. But one thing that Matt Frevola has is cardio for days. You know, this guy is super relentless. If he can wrestle you, you know, Matt Frevola is a problem. So despite having the dusty chin that can always turn to dust, you know, the skill set is wrestling. When Matt Frevola can wrestle, you know he's a good fighter. Now, Valdez is 10-0 as a pro, hasn't lost a fight yet. Kind of knocks you out or chokes you out. If he chokes out Matt Frevola, I'm assuming he probably club and subs him. You know, hurts him on the feet, then chokes him out. If Matt Frevola wins the fight, you know, he most likely fatigues Valdez. And I think that's probably what's going to happen here. I'm going to take Matt Frevola. Now, if Valdez gets that brawl and he can clip the dusty chin, turn it to dust, credit to him. And that's why I kind of hope that Frevola just wrestles. Because if you can fatigue Valdez, you know, you're probably going to have more success wrestling, chain wrestling, scrambling, you know. He's probably going to end up on top. So yeah, I'll take Matt Frevola. Now the odds, I'm going to price Matt Frevola around 60%, 6 times out of 10. And the actual numbers, you've got Matt Frevola minus 200. Man, so I think the bookies are getting the right side. But again, they're making you pay a little bit more than you should. But yeah, my prediction, guys, I'm going to take Matt Frevola to most likely out-wrestle Genaro Valdez. Alright guys, we've got a difficult prediction to make with this one. We've got Michael Morales taking on Trevin Giles. Man, the reason why it's a difficult prediction, Michael Morales only 12-0 as a pro. You know, so the guy's pretty green, you know, 22 years old. Coming off the Contender Series, another guy from the Contender. But yeah, you go back and look at what Michael Morales done on the Contender Series, you know, it was a good fight. Michael Morales is only going to get better as a fighter. You know, 12-0, he's only going to get better, 22 years old. Now, Trevin Giles on the flip side, this guy's going to be cutting down from middleweight to welterweight. So that's something to note with this fight. You know, how is Trevin Giles going to look with an extra 15 pounds to cut? You know, Trevin Giles ain't a bad fighter. The boxing's pretty good. The grappling definitely isn't bad. I would say he's got better boxing than Michael Morales, but I would say Michael Morales has better kicking than Trevin Giles. You know, there is a possibility that Trevin Giles takes down Michael Morales. That could be a way to win this fight. And that would be a pretty smart thing to do, you know. Michael Morales, only 22 years old. Take this guy to the mat, you know, humble him. Because if you let Michael Morales just stand in front of you, use the kicks, you know, come in with the punches whenever he wants, he might look good in this fight. So that would be a smart idea from Trevin Giles, you know, look to utilise that takedown. Now, one more thing I want to mention before I make my prediction. Trevin Giles got completely dusted by Duplessis. I'm not saying that Michael Morales is on the same level as Duplessis, because he definitely isn't. But when you get dusted the way he got dusted, you know, I'm nervous to pick Trevin Giles here. You know, the chin might still be recovering, and now you're cutting an extra 15 pounds of water weight. You know, I'm going to predict Michael Morales. Not super confident, but, you know, I think he might be catching Trevin Giles at a good time. Now, the odds that I would give Michael, I'd give him around a -150 chance. And the actual numbers, you've got Michael Morales -130 up to -150. If you can get Morales around that -130 price tag, that's not a bad bet. Alright, my homies, we got a matchup between Rodolfo Vieira taking on Wellington Turman. Alright, so what you've got with this matchup is an absolute killer in the jiu-jitsu world, Rodolfo Vieira, taking on a pretty decent mixed martial artist in Wellington Turman. Now, Turman, you know, you look at his UFC career, it hasn't been the greatest. Debuted against Carl Roberson, which was a pretty good fight. Then he beat Marcus Perez. So at this point, you know, it's okay. But then Andrew Sanchez sent him to Shadow City. And then Bruno Silva done the same thing. So now you're thinking, you know, Turman's not looking too good at the moment. Now he does get a nice win against Sam Alvey, but again, kinda close. If Rodolfo Vieira takes Wellington to the mat, you know, it's pretty much a wrap. I would give the striking advantage to Wellington Turman. But if you go watch Rodolfo against Dustin Stoltz first, man, Rodolfo Vieira had a pretty good jab. Like, he was sticking that jab, man. It was quick. It was landing. So maybe that's a weapon that Rodolfo Vieira chooses to use against Wellington. You know, if the fight's not on the mat, maybe he just sticks him with a jab. But if you're looking at Wellington, man, the kicks, you know, high kicks, low kicks, they come pretty powerful, pretty quick. So if Wellington can just avoid that takedown, you know, keep the fight mainly striking, he has got a chance in beating Rodolfo Vieira. Another thing to note with Rodolfo, the cardio isn't the best. It's not the greatest. You see that against Anthony Hernandez, and you kind of see it a little bit against Dustin Stoltzfus too. You know, Anthony Hernandez really shook the world. No one expected him to choke out Rodolfo Vieira. But he did, you know, and it was mainly because Rodolfo Vieira gassed out. There's a few ways this fight could go. You know, if Vieira gasses out, Wellington's going to take over. If the fight goes to the mat, it could be a wrap. You know, it's a good one. I'm going to side with Wellington Turman. I know Andrew Sanchez sent him to Shadow City. I know Bruno Silva sent him to Shadow City. And I know if the fight goes to the mat, it could be a wrap. However, if the fight stays standing, my boy Wellington Turman, he's got a small chance. He's got a pretty decent chance, you know, from a striking standpoint. So yeah, I'm going to side with Wellington Turman. Yeah, my numbers, guys, I'll keep it close because Rodolfo Vieira, the black belt hunter, if he takes it to the mat. So yeah, I'll put Wellington Turman around -130. And you've got Wellington Turman +220. +2, oh my goodness. Alright, if it goes to the mat, for sure, you know, Rodolfo Vieira -300. But if it's on the feet, man, you're not a -300. The jab looked pretty good against Dustin, but still, this is mixed martial arts, this isn't just jiu-jitsu. So Rodolfo has to get the fight to the mat to warrant that -300. So yeah, I'm happy to take a shot there. Alright, my homies, you know what time it is. If you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, double amen. If you're not a smoker, but you enjoy the smoke breaks, that's a triple amen, gang. Let's go. Hey, I hope you guys are doing well, doing blessed, having a good day, having a good start to your week. Or if you're watching this episode on the weekend, like a Friday, Saturday, I hope you're having a sick weekend. Alright, 2 things that you guys have got to drop down in the comment section from this smoke break. Number 1. Tell me what strain you're smoking on. You know, if you're American, man, you've got access to all of those organic flavours, so drop down the strain below. The second question, I used this smoke break question towards the end of 2021. Instead of telling me who you think 100% is going to win the fight, tell me who you think 100% is going to lose the fight. Because, you know, trying to fade a fighter is the same thing as trying to bet on a fighter. Kind of the same thing. Man, I remember so many people fading Ilia Quinta against Bobby Green. All of my bets for this card, guys, will be posted on Patreon. So yeah, if you want all of my bets on UFC 270, jump on Patreon. Man, I'm happy to be back in this week-to-week UFC routine. It sucks that the bets for week 1 weren't great, but man, the vibe in the Discord group, it was popping week 1. Night 1, you know what I'm saying? It was popping. Alright, my homies, let's break down this main card. The co-main and main event Man, I'm excited for these fights. Alright, so we got a matchup between Michel Pereira taking on Andre Fialho. So last week, Michel Pereira originally supposed to fight Muslim Salikhov. Muslim Salikhov not in the fight anymore. Now he's taking on the guy who basically retired James Vick, which is a little bit sad. You know, James Vick was like a prospect in the UFC at one point, but now he's getting retired by this guy. When you look at the skill set of Fialho, you know, the boxing, I think the boxing is what stands out the most. You know, the lead uppercut, the backhand, the 1-2. I think the boxing is what stands out. But if I'm looking at weaknesses, I think the lead leg, you know, plants on the lead leg pretty heavy, and you don't want to do that against a guy like Michel Pereira. Reasons why you don't want to do that is because Michel Pereira is mainly a kicker, and when he's not kicking, you know, the explosive knockout movements. And if you're a stationary target just in front and those explosive techniques land, you know, there is a possibility that Michel Pereira gets a TKO. There's also a possibility that Michel Pereira maybe takes the fight to the mat. Now, there is a small possibility that Michel Pereira might gas out. That's going to be like the negative to having all those explosive movements, explosive moments. So if he slows down, you know, maybe Andre Fialho starts to hit him with the jab, starts to have more success with the boxing. But most times out of 10, I think Michel Pereira has more experience. He's been in there with better guys. And that might show in this type of matchup. So my prediction, I'm going to take the crazy man, Michel Pereira. You know, we should get a betting line on, will Michel Pereira do a backflip? There should be a betting line for that. Yeah, my numbers on this one, guys. I'm going to put Pereira around -300. Just see him winning, you know, 7 times, just over 7 times out of 10. And the actual numbers, you've got Michel Pereira -300, -350. But yeah, I think the bookies are kind of right. You know, stylistically, I think it's a good one for Michel Pereira to land low kicks and body kicks. Even high kicks, spinning attacks, you know, maybe gets a takedown. And the explosive punching might be the result. I think -300 kind of makes sense. But yeah, my prediction, I'm going to take the Brazilian, Michel Pereira. Alright, we got a matchup between Cody Stamann taking on Said Nurmagomedov. Man, this is a good one. This is a good one. You know, Cody Stamann pretty much does the same thing every time. And that's use good boxing pressure into the wrestling. So he's going to feint, use a lot of pressure, good boxing combinations, rips to the body. Now the opponent, Said Nurmagomedov, you know, this guy's brilliant. He's a really well-rounded mixed martial artist. The only time that Said Nurmagomedov has lost inside the UFC, that came to Raoni Barcelos. And Raoni Barcelos is on this card, so going back and watching that fight was pretty fun. But yeah, man, Said Nurmagomedov, this guy can strike. The movement's good, the spinning attacks. You know, this guy's a well-rounded mixed martial artist. And that's why this matchup is a really good matchup, man. Cody Stamann brings a good skill set to the octagon, and so does Said Nurmagomedov. I do think that Cody Stamann kinda telegraphs the boxing just a little bit, and that's primarily because he is a wrestler. And that's not to say that he doesn't have success with the boxing pressure, but the best way for Cody Stamann to win this matchup would be to wrestle. If it stays in a striking type battle, I think Said Nurmagomedov probably edges that fight. And that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to say this fight primarily stays a striking battle. So that's going to be my prediction. I'll take Said Nurmagomedov. Yeah, my numbers on this one, guys. I'd put Said around -170. So slightly over 6 times out of 10. Just over 60%. And the bookies have Said Nurmagomedov -200. Which is just under 70%. So yeah, a little bit of tax, but not a lot. If Cody Stamann can take the fight to the mat, out wrestle Said, then it's a good underdog pick. But I'm going to say that doesn't happen. I'm going to say Said Nurmagomedov wins the fight. Brandon Moreno taking on Deiveson Figueiredo again. And again, I'm excited. I've got to spark up for this fight, man, because I'm just excited to see what's going to happen. Man, it pains me to make this prediction. Like, it actually hurts to make this prediction. But at the same time, it's, you know, how can you pick against Brandon Moreno? How can you do it? And the reason why it hurts to make that prediction, man, like, I've picked Figueiredo every single time he's been inside the octagon. From his UFC debut, John Moraga, Formiga, Pantoja, Tim Elliott, Joseph Benavidez, Alex Perez, Brandon Moreno 2 times. I've never picked against Deiveson Figueiredo. Super well-rounded, you know, a black belt in jiu-jitsu. talking about Figueiredo from a striking standpoint, you know, he kind of stands in like a karate stance, man, quite wide open. And he's showing you that right hand, you know, he's showing you, look, I'm going to catch you, I'm going to knock you out. And he does have knockout power, you know, Deiveson Figueiredo can put you away. Now, speaking about the champion, Brandon Moreno. Man, to be honest, guys, we used to look at Moreno as like a, you know, a pretty good guy, quite scrappy, quite tough. You look at what Sergio Pettis and Pantoja done a couple years ago. The moment I realised that Brandon Moreno was a much better fighter was against Kekara France. Round 2, round 3, Brandon Moreno was unbelievable. And then he gets the fight against Deiveson Figueiredo, which first time round, you know, without the point deduction, maybe Figueiredo wins that fight. But even then, you know, Moreno showed us, look, this guy's going to slow down. I'm always going to make it a difficult fight. So yeah, man, I've got to predict that Brandon Moreno keeps his title. I feel like the weight cut for Deiveson Figueiredo is... it's a battle, man. It's a real battle. I don't know if you guys remember, but the first time round that Figueiredo fought Brandon Moreno, if you guys can remember, Figueiredo was in hospital the same night, the night before that fight. And a lot of people were saying, you know, he's in hospital, the fight might not happen. But if you think about it, you know, maybe he was on the IV, you know, getting rehydrated. So maybe it was a good thing that he was in hospital the first time these guys fought. Now, he didn't have that same situation the second time round. And to be honest, man, you know, he looked horrible second time round. He was frozen. The cardio was terrible. He was getting dropped by a jab. And when you're getting dropped by a jab, you know, that kind of tells you that Figueiredo had a big weight cut, taking water from the brain, you know. And Figueiredo's not the type of guy to have a dusty chin, you know. His chin's pretty solid. But man, if you look at what Brandon Moreno done, he showed us, I've got more to offer. This guy's going to slow down. I'm going to take over. And there wasn't really a moment where Moreno was even behind in that fight. He dominated the whole fight. You know, if Figueiredo slows down in this fight again, I feel like the same thing's going to happen. And I kind of feel like he's going to. I think round 1, round 2, Figueiredo's going to have those moments where he tries to knock out Brandon Moreno. But Brandon Moreno's so seasoned, so experienced at this point that he probably avoids that. Ways to avoid that would be also to grapple. You know, when you're grappling with Figueiredo, you're making him fatigued. And Moreno's such a, you know, I watched that rematch again today, and even when Moreno was taken down, you know, he was working, he was making Figueiredo work, and that's what you want to do. You want to fatigue this guy. The weight cut has always been a problem for Figueiredo, and it feels like it's getting even more difficult. You know, he's getting older now, 34 years old. The weight cut is a battle, and I think it's going to be the same situation where he slows down and Moreno has more to offer. So yeah, man, it kind of pains me to pick against Figueiredo. Such a believer in this guy, and I'm still a believer in his skill set. But I just think the assassin baby, Brandon Moreno, he's got his number. And I'd put Moreno around, you know, minus 200. And the actual number you've got, Brandon Moreno, minus 180, minus 175. Yeah, it's pretty fair, you know. You've got to put Figueiredo that plus money. And the reason why he's plus money is probably because he's going to gas out. He's going to slow down. You know, Figueiredo's not trying to rack up the output. He's trying to knock you out. And he's using a lot of energy when he's trying to do that. Brandon Moreno knows it too. He knows it. He's seasoned. He's experienced. It's a good rematch. It's a good trilogy. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to have to pick Moreno on this one. I'm still excited though. I'm still excited to see how this one goes down. Alright, main event. We've got Francis Ngannou taking on Cyril Gane. Man, I'm excited. Guys, I want to start this breakdown by saying I've never picked against Cyril Gane. Man, from the early days of his fights against Rafael Pessoa and Don'Tale Mayes, I said this guy is going to be fighting for a title. And I'm sure a lot of us said that, you know. This guy turns up, he's a heavyweight, he's moving like a welterweight. You know, that elusive style Cyril Gane has, we've all been impressed by it. He's like a wonder boy. He's a wonder boy of the heavyweight division. You look at what he's done in the UFC, you know, the fight against Rafael Pessoa, his UFC debut. He wins this fight by submission. Man, Cyril Gane was like over plus 2,000 to win this fight by submission. And then he gets a heel hook against Don'Tale Mayes. Now you're looking at the fight against Tanner Boser. Tanner Boser is a karate practitioner. Cyril Gane looked brilliant in this fight. He looked quick, he looked powerful. Then he gets in there against a legend, a veteran, JDS. And it's an elbow finish. Even Jairzinho Rosenstrike, you know, he became Frozenstrike. Alexander Volkov kicked. Derek Lewis couldn't find any big moments against Cyril Gane because Cyril Gane was so elusive. So really what you've got with this matchup is like an elusive Muay Thai fighter taking on arguably one of the scariest punchers we've ever seen. You know, if I said to you guys, who's the better fighter? Who's the better mixed martial artist in this main event? I feel like the answer would be Cyril Gane. You know, he is the better fighter. And most of the time, the better fighter does win the fight. You know, he's quicker than Francis Ngannou. He can fight from both stances. He's a better kicker. He can take you to the mat. He's got better cardio. You know, there's a lot of things that Cyril Gane has that Francis Ngannou doesn't have. But there is one thing that Francis Ngannou has. You know, it kind of levels up the playing field, you know? And what Francis Ngannou has that Cyril Gane doesn't is an ability to literally send you to Shadow City. You know, here's a quick montage of Francis Ngannou sending opponents to Shadow City. You know, a lot of these fighters had more to offer than Francis Ngannou. Cyril Gane has more to offer, but if Francis Ngannou catches you clean, it doesn't matter what you have to offer. Because ultimately, your conscious brain is going to be separated from reality. You know what I'm saying? So that's what you've got here, man. I think if Francis Ngannou catches Cyril inside those first 10 minutes, there's a good chance he knocks him out. I've noticed with Cyril Gane that he kind of rolls with the punch. So if Francis is trying to knock him out and Cyril's going with the punch, you know, you can survive, but it only takes one mistake to not go with the punch. And now it's a car crash and now you've got yourself a knockout. You don't want to make a mistake against Francis Ngannou. This guy is a serious knockout artist. Now, if anyone's going to avoid that car crash punch, it's arguably going to be the most elusive fighter in the heavyweight division. And that's Cyril Gane. You know, he shows us every fight, look, I can rack up the kicks, I can hit you, I'm quicker, and I'm going to avoid what you're trying to hit me with. It's like the cat trying to catch the mouse, you know, that's what Cyril Gane's looking to do. But guys, I'm just here to mention that if you make that mistake against Francis Ngannou, despite having more to offer, if you make that mistake, you're going to go to sleep. I've never picked against Cyril Gane. I've picked him every single fight up until this very moment. But you know what, guys? I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to pick against the guy that I said would be champion like one fight into his UFC career. I'm going to pick against him. Man, I cannot believe I'm picking against Cyril, but there's something about Francis Ngannou that just terrifies me. So yeah, I'm going to side with Francis Ngannou, but guys, I'm not betting this main event. So if I'm wrong and, you know, Cyril becomes champion, I'm going to be hyped. And if Francis catches him, you know, I'm not even going to be that hyped. I'm just going to be like, yep, that's what happens if Francis hits ya. You know what I'm saying, man? I'm excited to watch this main event. But yeah, guys, my odds on this one, I'm going to put both of these guys -110. Because the likelihood of Francis finding that shot inside 10 minutes, man, it could happen. And the likelihood of Gane proving, look, it was never going to happen, no need to sweat. You know, he could do that also. And the actual numbers, you've got +120, +130 for Francis Ngannou. So the bookies are basically saying, look, you can have plus money, but you know the plus money's dead outside of 10 minutes. It's kind of fair. The better mixed martial artist is the favourite, but we know what Francis has. He has 10 minutes. 10 minutes to land a devastating car crash, you know what I'm saying? Alright, my homies, as always, drop down your main event prediction, your co-main, underdogs, locks, all of that good betting stuff. Drop it in the comment section. Alright, my homies, make sure you take cold showers, drink water, keep your eyes to the sky, never glued to your shoes. Mac Miller. Alright, peace.